catcher underneath it. They can inject special types of polymer plastics that will take 10,000 degrees and will harden very quickly and prevent the nuclear material, the corium, from getting further down toward the groundwater table. They need to put a spider silk Kevlar tent, and they already know how to make spider silk Kevlar. They have access to these materials, and I'm not talking about over the whole facility, but over each sub-facility, each reactor. The idea of building some kind of so-called metal structure is just asinine. I mean, I don't understand why they think it's going to withstand a typhoon. It won't. So a spider silk Kevlar tent. We need to have some way of filtering these, so we need to talk about buckyball nanofilters. And I know that DARPA is researching this because I have classified sources. Buckyball filters, as thought about by Buckminster Fuller years ago, are made by carbon fiber nanotubes, and you can make a nanotube filter. It's very straightforward. These should be made to pull out the radioisotopes, and then the radioisotopes, including most of the debris in these highly radioactive containers, need to be put at the bottom of the best places, a tin mine, 5 to 7 miles down. This idea that they're going to fix this problem, this is an open wound, and some miles upwind of the Fukushima reactor they should have a memorial, but nobody should be in this area, including these citizens that are sitting there waiting until they get enough accumulated dosage they're going to die. So this area of the Honshu, the northern island, is in dire straits. It's a dead zone. And we aren't coming to the reality of that, and the Japanese aren't also coming to the reality that yellowfin tuna is no longer a cash crop, that the coastal areas of eastern Japan are all going to become more and more radioactive down the entire eastern coast of all the islands. So we need to think, I call Imagineering out of the box. What do you think of some of those ideas? Do they make any sense?
Oh, indeed. The spider silk, that's intriguing. And actually, it's funny, I just read an article the other day that they were trying to blend spider silk with something that was similar
Spider silk Kevlar. Spider silk Kevlar would be the thing that I recommend.
It was bulletproof, it was a...
Right, but they can also blend it if they want to with depleted uranium wire, so they can make a wire mesh with DU spider silk so that we could block a lot of the radiation coming out of there that's trying to directly go through it. But they need to have a filtration system that has a multi-step filtration. Charcoal filter systems and other filter systems, and like a giant bong, if you want to call it, or a water trap system, but then ultimately buckyball filters. So they have a buckyball filter that'll grab out all the radioisotopes. There's no way at this late stage that there should be radioisotopes wafting around the entire northern hemisphere. This is pure insanity. It shows a level of what I call contrived ignorance in the face of a global disaster. And let's say this weeps for 20 years. The effect on the world population, I've calculated out that already the amount of radiation released is somewhere around 1,000 to 3,000 times the amount of radiation from Chernobyl. It's more than 1,000 times the amount of radiation released from the entire nuclear above-ground testing program of both the United States and Russia. At the rate of this radiation release, which is continuing to explode and burp up more radiation, and now typhoons mobilize it, and they're burning trash, by, say, the next 20 years, the amount of radiation will exceed by millions of times the above-ground nuclear testing, and millions of times the amount from Chernobyl. So we're talking about decimation of the ability for human beings to reproduce, ecosystem collapse, and I'm literally saying that Fukushima in the next 20 years, if they don't solve it quickly, will be an extinction-level event. It's an ELE.
The industry is actually divided on that topic. Half of them are in denial about it and said not one person died yet. Or
they're crazy.
Died.
There's all kinds of people that are being dosed to levels that... And the problem is, just like after Chernobyl, like Chris Busby said, a lot of them won't live long enough to get cancer. They're going to die of heart disease and strokes and other disease disorders and immune system collapse and other infection, but they may not recognize it as a nuclear casualty. The fact is that the unborn are going to be... We have something like a 38 to 50+% increase in premature baby deaths in Pennsylvania. That's a long way from Sendai, Japan. And it happened right after the Sendai tsunami and nuclear meltdown at Fukushima. So we know the radioisotopes are hitting the unborn, they're hitting the elderly, they're killing people off at an enormous rate. And I think that we're facing something that's like I call it a nuclear day after tomorrow. The children of men scenario there, where basically, the youngest person born dies and the whole world mourns. And people say, oh, you're exaggerating, Dr. Deagle. No, I'm not. We have co-toxicity with GMO food, aspartame, Splenda, fluoridation, and depleted uranium and all the other crap and emerging plagues. And as the population gets weaker, now this is the other thing people should recognize, these radioisotopes make people sick, and when people are under free radical stress, pathogens in them mutate and become more lethal. If you want to make a biological weapon, you take an animal, you give them a pathogen, say a virus or bacteria, you then irradiate that with a cyclotron or a radioisotope, and it turns it into a lethal pandemic-like pathogen. That's what we're having. We have a laboratory to create the super weapons that may originate out of Japan. Maybe H1N1 will recombine, as they've been saying, and can be concerned with H5N1, and in the next, say, 1 to 2 years, we'll have an emergent super strain that'll be mutant, caused by sick people that are radioactive, developing H1N1 flu, and now the virus mutates because a free radical load makes the virus do that to survive. This is what happens.
Yeah, I'm not in the side that says that, the denial side. I'm not in that side.
Yeah, I know that. Of course you're not. We're in the screaming side, saying, for God's sake, wake up. Yeah. For God's sake, do something. Pour the billions of dollars in to stop this. Obama's trying to get reelected when, in fact, the entire world is becoming more radioactive by the day. And this, when I saw this news report this morning, I just freaked. I thought, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And the news media isn't doing a tap about it. They talk about the most inane, stupid things on the news. It's like, I can't stand it. I can't take a strong enough anti-nauseant to watch this news anymore. I turn it on and go, I start retching, mentally retching, and thinking, how can people put this drivel on the so-called big box, the lying box in the corner, or the big flat screen TV? It's just terrible. You turn it on and you say, then you always have to read between the lines, what are they really saying? What's really going on? Then you got to go, and of course there's a lot of stuff on I call the sewer net and alternative radio and television, where a lot of unqualified people that are either crazy, egomaniacs, or have other problems will make statements that are inappropriate or put people in harm's way and don't prepare people for what's real. Fukushima is real. You are getting cooked from the inside out. The smart meters are real. They're shutting down your DNA. They're shattering your genetics. They're doing other things. And people want to think, oh, that's your opinion. No, it's not. People are more than entitled to their opinion. They're not entitled to the facts.
We have empirical evidence.
They're not entitled to the facts.
It's absolutely.
Yeah, we're not talking about opinions. We're talking about facts. They are not entitled to the facts, and if they think that they have a right to be unqualified judges of what we say and the warnings we give, and think we're exaggerating, whether it's a pandemic plague or smart meters or the horror of Fukushima, and they need to get a life, because I consider that form of active ignorance, and it's an active ignorance. It requires a lot of effort to remain that stupid. Is a form of what I call pre-suicidal ideation. How's that? Pre-suicidal ideation. In other words, it's the kind of ideas that get basically, before you commit suicide, this is the kind of stupid thinking that makes you have no options, and then when you get really sick, or you develop real serious problems, or you have a loved one sick with it, you finally cry, oh, why, God, did you let this happen? And God is speaking back to you because you're a dumb bunny. You never paid attention, you ignored Dr. Deagle and Chris Harris and all the other voices in the wilderness crying out to tell you to smarten up, take nutraceuticals to protect you, drink clean filtered water, get a hold of your politicians to deal something with Fukushima, and now a typhoon is going to displace 1 million people and blow all that radiation to us. And my meter in my bedroom on my wife's dresser is going to spike again. God help us. God help us. Let me tell you, people out there that don't listen, I don't know what to say to you.
We need help.
I'll pray for you, man, but I'll tell you, your time is limited here. You're going to soon be out of the gene pool if you don't listen. Back tomorrow with Dr. Mayor Eisenstein, major updates with Tim Alexander, and impending war in the